In Vancouver for Vaisakhi Day, Stéphane Dion disagreed. Are you concerned at all that you did a serious blow, as the RCMP put it, to their investigation?
I don't think so at all. I don't think so.
You're not concerned? Let me make sure I understand your answer.
My answer is that it did not hurt the investigation.
Dion conceded, though, that he had not been briefed on the investigation, so it wasn't clear why he disagreed with the RCMP. But at this point, there was a whole new problem brewing, and not just for the Liberals. It was the Vaisakhi parade in Surrey. This was the one where all parties showed up to find the mastermind of the Air India bombing being honoured as a martyr. This year's Vaisakhi parade in Surrey was supposed to be a celebration of the Sikh religion and culture. But the parade was run by a temple with a hardline separatist leadership, and a sign of things to come was a rare public appearance by Ajab Singh Bagri. Bagri, who was acquitted at the Air India trial, remains an important separatist figure as a co-founder of the Baba Khalsa, which is banned as a terrorist organization by the Canadian government, among others. Also at the parade was Ripudaman Singh Malik, another early supporter of the Baba Khalsa, who was also acquitted at the trial. And the organizer of the parade was Pari Dulai, who, until it was banned, used to show off his Baba Khalsa jacket.
I would like to introduce Penny Priddy MP.
Also present were plenty of politicians. NDP MP Penny Priddy, and Liberal MP Sukh Dhaliwal, and two Conservative MPs, Nina Grewal and Jim Abbott, representing the Prime Minister. The Premier of BC, Gordon Campbell, was there too, in an Indian outfit no less. But it wasn't him that made news. And it wasn't the Khalistan signs on the floats. It was the pictures on those floats. Organized by the Temple Committee, the floats honored a lineup of Sikh martyrs and assassins, including the late Talvinder Parmar. He's been dead for 15 years, but it's long been established that Parmar, the leader of the Baba Khalsa, led the Air India bomb plot. That makes him the worst mass murderer in Canada's history. And yet Parmar was portrayed as a hero, with 3 posters on 2 floats. Why was there a picture of Talvinder Parmar?
Well, Talvinder Parmar is a martyr of the Sikh nation.
Manmohan Singh, a long-time Khalistan separatist, spoke for the temple. He was the leader of the organization which did the bombing.
He claimed to be a leader. He said it. But that doesn't mean he's proven it.
But there was more than Parmar at the Surrey parade. As the RCMP rode by, young men openly wore the insignia of the International Sikh Youth Federation, which, like the Baba Khalsa, is banned in Canada as a terrorist organization. In fact, men and women alike showed off the ISYF logo. And in the parade, school children from Surrey's Khalsa School wore a crossed machine gun logo on their jackets.
The guns, crossed guns were on the jackets.
Yes.
That were pictures, not real guns.
Oh, so that's okay for school children to wear?
Yeah, it's just a picture of the gun.
But many other Sikhs saw their religion being hijacked by extremists. Balraj Diol of Brampton, Ontario.
My serious concern is that they are trying to teach our younger generation, of our kids, that is what we are. That is our legacy, which I think is untrue. That is not our legacy. Sikhism does not stand for violence. Sikhism does not approve the killings of innocent people like that.
For talking that way 20 years ago, Balraj Diol was beaten by militants and left for dead. Now he says what happened in Surrey should not be considered acceptable.
If that is the case, Terry, then tomorrow followers of Osama bin Laden can do the same thing, and would we accept it? When I look at it, I think we have a very, very serious double standard.
Dave Hayer is another Sikh who was appalled. He is a member of the BC legislature from Surrey, but he saw what was coming and skipped the parade.
It is different to celebrate your culture versus celebrating the terrorist. Many people come.
Heyer has a history with the militants. His father, Tara Heyer, was a police witness in the Air India case but was murdered before he could testify. His son says he doesn't go to parades which glorify violence.
If there are people who are terrorists and they are promoted as heroes, maybe it's a politician's responsibility to say, listen, maybe we should think twice. Should we participate ethically and morally in a parade?
Another Sikh to stay away was Ujjal Dosanjh. He says the politicians who did go probably did not know what was coming, but
once they found out that these posters were there and that these politicians themselves had participated in the parade, they had an obligation. They had a fundamental political obligation, both moral and, other than moral, to lead by example of denunciation, the strongest possible denunciation of that kind of behavior.
But that did not happen.
I don't know why are we making a fuss about Surrey.
Dosanjh's Liberal colleague, Sukh Dhaliwal, would not utter a word of criticism about the events in Surrey.
All I was there is to celebrate the Canadian values, that is peace, tolerance, diversity, and respect for others.
Penny Priddy of the NDP said she was disappointed to hear what had happened, but that's all.
Do I regret going? No, I don't regret going because I would not have anticipated that would happen. I don't regret going anywhere where 100,000 Sikhs are going to celebrate not something negative, but something that is for them an important celebration in their culture.
In fact, instead of distancing themselves from the parade organizers, the politicians were staying close. A week later, NDP leader Jack Layton visited the temple which ran the parade, although a spokesman later blamed poor advance work. And for the Conservatives, Nina Grewal declined to be interviewed about the parade. No comment. Jim Abbott at first said he was flabbergasted to hear what had happened, but he later reversed himself, saying, "I will vigorously defend this event." It was defended by Premier Campbell, too.
And I'll continue to participate with the community who invite me to be part of that.
It took a few days before things changed. Campbell's spokesman later said the Premier was upset by the parade.
All helpless community.
And the federal government allowed that Conservatives might not show up next year. But these comments came slowly, and Dosanjh never got the denunciations that he wanted. He says many politicians assume wrongly that extremists speak for the majority.
Politicians sometimes believe that if they speak out against violence and hatred, somehow they're going to anger the entire community.
So they're being intimidated?
Well, they are being opportunistic.
At John Major's Air India inquiry, this was a sore point for the victims' families long before the Surrey parade.
You're here as of right.
Last fall, Pervez Madden, who lost her husband in the bombing, took dead aim at politicians who pander to extremists.
We need to stop that. We need to stop our politicians from attending those kind of events. I'm sorry, I know it's about your votes, but that's dirty business. You don't want to be associated with a group that is linked to terrorism. You don't want those kind of votes.
But her words did not seem to have much effect. And the issue is not just in BC. Take the Malton Temple near Toronto. Here, too, the walls are lined with a fearsome array of gun-toting Sikh martyrs. And once again, a place of honor is reserved for Talvinder Parmar, the mastermind of the Air India bombing. But the provincial government doesn't seem to mind.
With all the people coming, you have a big parade?
In fact, Premier Dalton McGuinty's government has recently handed out $750,000 to various Sikh temples, including Malton, which got $100,000. The money is supposed to help settle new immigrants, but very few strings are attached. The Dixie Temple in Mississauga got $250,000. Even though it is being sued over missing revenues. And the Rexdale Temple got $100,000. Not long before hosting a meeting of the Khalistan Liberation Organization, where the old cry of Khalistan Forever was raised.
Khalistan! Khalistan! Khalistan!
But none of this affected the flow of government money.
Well, you ask the Ontario government. They just dished out millions of dollars to all sorts of religious organizations, from the Greek Orthodox to Sikh temples to Muslim mosques. Do you think they could not find anyone in the Sikh community that deserved to integrate new immigrants into this country, rather than give money to temples that say Khalistan Zindabad, which basically says break up India into two countries?
But speaking out against separatism can be bad for your health. Ujjal Dosanjh is an example.
Some of these hoodlums and goons and gangsters and Gestapo tactic people.
Back in '85, Ujjal Dosanjh was nearly beaten to death for taking on the extremists.
He was carrying an iron bar.
But today he is wondering if that could happen again because, ominously, he is being reminded of that beating by his enemies in the Punjabi media.
We have a huge readership, a huge readership.
For years, Sukhminder Hansra, a supporter of the World Sikh Organization, has been running a popular Ontario weekly. It's the one which had that front page praising the killers of Indira Gandhi. This year, Hansra wrote an editorial about the Surrey parade which harshly attacked Ujjal Dosanjh.
He's got problems with the community. The community has a problem with him.
But Hansra went much further in Punjabi. His editorial said that 20 years ago, one of the Guru's loved ones gave Dosanjh a good thrashing. He goes on, such things are not accepted in these peaceful countries, but... Dosanjh says that's a threat.
Obviously, it justifies violence, the past violence, by implication, violence that may happen in the future.
Dosanjh complained to the RCMP, but Hansra says his article was not intended as a threat against Dosanjh.
I don't think so. He felt challenged. Not threatened, challenged.
Such challenges often confront those who speak out about Sikh extremism. They face threats, beatings, and in the case of Dave Hayer's father, murder.
The names of the victims are oriented in the direction of Ireland.
In the case of Air India, though, it was mass murder. The victims' families recently gathered in Toronto to unveil a new memorial to the 331 people who died. Those families know that their loved ones were killed by Khalistan separatists. And they know, too, that the separatist movement flourishes, even today, in Canada. Tori Malevsky, CBC News, Vancouver.